2024 Dynasty rookie wide receiver rankings. We're making a tier list of the rookie wide receivers in the 2024 draft class for the purposes of Dynasty fantasy football. If you're new to the channel, give us a like and subscribe. We're pumping out Dynasty content, mock drafts, tier lists, rankings, all that fun stuff. And we will continue to do so. So again, give us a like and subscribe. It is much appreciated. And as you guys know, this wide receiver class is absolutely stacked. I have 23 receivers here that I'm ranking today. I don't know why I stopped at 23, so don't ask, but you could just kind of keep going and rank all of them. But I'm just going to rank 23 today. Those, we're not going to get 23 fantasy relevant receivers out of this draft, most likely, unless it's an insane draft class. But so yeah, we're doing that. We're ranking them into 6 tiers here. Again, this is for the purposes of fantasy dynasty football, guys that I like and things like that. And we're just going to kick it off, of course, with the guy who has been the number one receiver for this draft class for the last couple years now. That is Marvin Harrison Jr., just a complete receiver. There's nothing I can say that you don't already know, or anything I'm not going to convince you or anything. He should be, potentially the 101 even in Superflex leagues, probably at worst the 102. Again, nothing I can say to convince you. Now, I was tempted, I'll be honest, I was tempted to put Malik Neighbors in tier 1 and Rome Odunze. I don't think either one of those guys, I don't think they're that far off. I really, really don't. We're already getting the rumors coming out that Malik Neighbors might be the number one receiver taken in this draft. Again, is it just rumors? This is the time of year where we hear a bunch of crap and BS from GMs and coaches, but maybe there's some legs to it. I don't know. I'm still going to put them, as of right now, March 24th, in the tier 2. But I'm telling you guys, the difference between Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors is not as big as it seems, right? We've been hearing Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name for a couple years, so it makes you think, oh, the gap between the two are huge. No, Malik Neighbors is easily a top 5 pick, which is, again, in any other draft, I've been saying this for a while, in basically any other draft class over the last 5, 6, 7 years, Malik Neighbors would probably be the wide receiver 1, except for maybe that Jamar Chase draft class. Dude is awesome. He does things that Marvin Harrison Jr. can't do. I am going to put Rome Odunze next to Malik Neighbors in tier 2 as well. All 3 of these guys should be top 10 picks. There's a chance all 3 of them go in the top 7, which is insane to think about. Again, it's March 24th. We're about 5 weeks away from the draft. A lot can change, right? If Malik Neighbors, all 3 of these guys could be on tier 1 after draft day comes, depending on where they go in draft capital. So that's the first 2 tiers for you. It's the top 3 receivers that, again, you've been hearing about over and over and over for the last several weeks if you've been paying attention. But if you haven't, those are the top 3 receivers. Next up in the tier 3, these are guys that basically I could see all 5 of these guys being first-round picks. Maybe not all of them are first-round picks, but any of the 5 could be first-round picks, and maybe all 5. Who knows? Maybe we get 8 first-round receivers. I think the record is 7 back in like the 2000s, sometime in the 2000s. This draft class could break that. So the guys that are in this tier, to me, are all potential first-round picks. Brian Thomas Jr., I've been saying it. His skill set is so coveted in the NFL. Now, is his ceiling maybe capped a little bit over the first couple of years? Possibly. I get the feeling he's more of like a 1B than like an alpha number 1 receiver. But like his skill set is just so coveted. The size, speed combination, the downfield play. Not only does he have speed, but he can make contested catches. He feels like the perfect like T. Higgins-like receiver, where ideally maybe you want either someone as equal or better than them, but man, you pair them with another really good receiver and you have an awesome receiving core. So Brian Thomas is going to flourish in the NFL. Not only is he big, but he's fast. Troy Franklin is a guy that I really, really like. I feel like people are a little bit down on him. And out of this group, it feels a little bit like he's the least likely to be a first-round pick, just from mocks that I'm seeing and things like that. I still really like him. I think his ceiling is slightly higher than Brian Thomas, or really anyone on this list potentially in this tier. but also his floor is probably a little bit lower as well, or lower, significantly lower than like Brian Thomas is going to be like a 900 to 1100 yard receiver, over the next couple years, in my opinion. And Troy Franklin, he could just be a bust, right? But I do think he has a pretty high ceiling as well. So I really like Troy Franklin. He reminds me of like a Stephon Diggs-ish type of player. Next up on this list, we do have the two Texas receivers. We have A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. To each their own in terms of who you like more, who you like less. I have been on Xavier Worthy bandwagon for like a year now or so. Ever since I started watching him dominate his first year in college as an 18-year-old. To me, that's super, super impressive. Like, to dominate in college at 18, which he did, is what I want to see out of potential superstar players. He reminds me a lot of Tank Dell in that way. Guys, he had a 38% dominator rating his first year in college, which means he was responsible for 38% of Texas's passing offense, yards and touchdowns. 38% as an 18-year-old, guys. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then he followed it up in year 2 with a 34% dominator rating. Now, last year, it was significantly down, still over 20%, which is what we want to see, but it was down to 23%. And he's kind of played on multiple different, like they've used him in multiple different ways. His first year in college, 2021, he was kind of like a deep threat, Xavier Worthy, that is. Then they used him as more of like a, more of a possession, shorter area targets. I just think he's really good. Like, he's always open. You watch his film. There's no one, whenever he's making catches, no one five yards near around him. Obviously, he's fast. He broke the record, which is, just kind of the cherry on top. I already liked him. I knew he was fast. I already liked him before he broke the record. So just everything about him I really like. A.D. Mitchell is also really good. Like, maybe I think he fits what people like a little bit more from their receivers. I know we have guys like Tank Dell who can exceed and succeed in the NFL at a lighter weight and a shorter size, which is what Xavier Worthy is. But still, size does matter when it comes to receivers. And A.D. Mitchell is more of that stereotypical 6'1", 205 receiver. And also, he's really fast, FYI. Ran in the 4.3. So both those guys are awesome. Personally, I like Xavier Worthy probably the most out of this tier. But again, I'm not going to argue with anyone that likes one of the other guys or whoever. Keon Coleman is the last guy in here. He's quite interesting. See him projected as a first-round pick still. He ran like a really bad 40, like a 4.61. I think a lot of people were a little bit out on him. But then he did the gauntlet drill, and he recorded the fastest miles per hour run, which is what, a guy like Puka Nacua last year in the combine was the fastest miles per hour run. And honestly, if I had to choose between the 40-yard time and how you look in the gauntlet / how fast you run while catching passes, I'm going to lean to the thing that you're actually going to do in the NFL, which is catch passes and not just run straight for 40 yards. So obviously his initial burst is really good. His 10-yard splits are really good. It's just his long speed is maybe not there. But he's still an amazing athlete. His burst is awesome. He can make contested catches and leap over anyone. A little bit of a limited route tree, laterally agility, separation isn't 100% where I want to see it with Keon Coleman. But I can't deny that he's probably going to there's a chance he gets first-round draft capital. And he's going to be probably a pretty good player, a wide receiver too, for a team. So, oops, I just refreshed. I don't know why. A wide receiver too for a team. So that is my tier 3. Next, we get into tier 4. We have guys that I'd be a little surprised if they went in the first round. Maybe they sneak into the very end of the first round. These are guys like Ladd McConkey in here. Ladd McConkey is really fun to watch. I'm going to pair him with a couple other guys here. Well, I'm going to pair him with like a Roman Wilson out of Michigan. and a Ricky Pearsall. These three guys are very interesting to me because you watch their tape, and man, they're just awesome to watch on tape. A lot of fun. You can see why they're kind of, all three of them have kind of skyrocketed this off season as you watch more film and get more film on them. They're all pretty fast as well. Everyone in this freaking draft class is fast. I think Roman Wilson and Ladd McConkey are both at the 4.39. Ricky Pearsall is a 4.41. Ricky Pearsall had an amazing combine, by the way, and so did Ladd McConkey, and honestly, so did Roman Wilson. He only ran the 40, but his 10-yard split's awesome. I'm a little concerned about their ceiling a bit, more so with Roman Wilson and Ladd McConkey. Are they just like awesome? Are they awesome NFL receivers for your team? And what is their upside for fantasy? That's kind of where I'm worried. But something that kind of erases that worry a little bit is they're going to get on the field and they're going to be able to have the chance to prove what they've got, right? From day one, potentially week one, they're going to be on the field as the wide receiver 2 or 3 on their team. And they're going to get a chance to show, hey, I'm more than just a slot guy who's good at blocking and maybe doesn't put up awesome fantasy numbers, but it's just an awesome receiver for your team. So all three of these guys I'm pretty excited about to see where they go in the draft class. If I had to rank them personally, I think I'd go McConkey, Roman Wilson, and then Pearsall. But again, they're in the same tier for a reason. All really good and intriguing players. And I've been making, by the way, Dynasty rookie profile videos where I go into a little bit more in depth. I don't know if I've made one on those three guys, but if you're interested in looking into a little bit more of these guys and diving a little bit deeper into the numbers, check those out. A couple more guys here that I have is, one of them is Xavier Legette, man. And this guy is an absolute monster. Like, this guy is like built in a lab, Greek goddess body. He runs a ridiculous 40-yard time. Xavier Legette, that is. He's 6'1", 220, 225, and he runs like a 4.39 or something. I'm just double checking that. I know it's in the 4.3s, 4.39, which is insane. I mean, the difference between 4.39 and 4.21, which Xavier Worthy broke the 40-yard time in, the difference between that and like a 40-yard run is like not much. I don't know the exact amount, but it's not much. Like, those guys are going to be finishing like bang, bang, right? To do that at 225 when Xavier Worthy's like 170 is pretty insane. The guy was a monster last year for South Carolina. The biggest question mark with him is he did absolutely nothing his first 4 years in college. He spent 5 years at South Carolina. He wasn't hurt like any of those years, really. And he just really didn't do anything. Like, nothing. Like, when I say nothing, I mean like nothing. Before his last 5th year in college, his most yards in a season was 167 yards, 18 catches. And again, 11 games in 2019, 6 in 2020, which was the COVID year. I think that's all they played. 11 in 2021, 13 in 2022. So he missed at the most a couple games each season. He just wasn't used. Now, I've heard different things. I heard that his last year in high school, he played quarterback for his team, and because their quarterback got hurt and they just put the best athlete at the position. I think unfortunately, kind of tragically, I think his parents passed away before heading into college, which is terrible. And obviously that would mess you up. And how much can you actually focus when that happens as an 18-year-old? I couldn't imagine. So I just don't know. Like, the ceiling for this guy is through the roof, absolutely through the roof. This guy could be maybe not the best receiver in this draft class, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like the 3rd or 4th best receiver in this draft class, like a couple, not necessarily because a bunch of guys bust, because he just has like a skill set that not many people have, right? The size, the strength, the speed, his ability to catch. He makes some ridiculous catches. But again, I am concerned about the historically, if you're not producing in college until you're age 22 or 23, there's I went back and looked at every fantasy relevant receiver since 2010. Every fantasy relevant receiver since 2010, and I looked at their breakout age in college. We're talking about 78 guys. 78 guys. These are guys that had multiple seasons of top 36 receiver finishes. We're talking about, what did I say? 78 guys. I believe there were only 8 of the 78 that had a breakout age of 20 or older. Only 8. And a lot of them, you can kind of point to a couple things, Jalen Waddle. Oh, he's on Alabama. He's behind a bunch of players. Terry McLaurin at Ohio State was behind a ridiculous amount of players. And Xavier Legette just wasn't in South Carolina. Look at the receivers drafted out of South Carolina since Legette's been at school in 2019. And there's one guy who was a 5th round pick or something. I think that's all there was. I went back and looked. So the ceiling's there. The floor is also there. Kind of the opposite of the first 3 guys. I think the floor is very, very much there for McConkey, Roman Wilson, and Ricky Pearsall. But the ceiling could be capped. Legette has more ceiling than a lot of receivers, even a lot of receivers in tier 3, in my opinion. So I do have one more player here for us in this tier, and that is Jalen Polk, the wide receiver, another wide receiver out of Washington. Just think he's a good all-around player, fun to watch. Obviously, that Washington offense was really, really good. They have 3 receivers we're going to be talking about here. I just think I don't think he could be a wide receiver 1 for a team. I just think he fits in as a really nice wide receiver 2. And if you get in the right offense with a high volume, that can mean very, very good things for fantasy football stuff. So really Jalen Polk. He's a guy that I feel like a lot of people are not going to be super high on in their dynasty rookie drafts because you just don't hear a lot about Jalen Polk. You hear about obviously the top guys. You've been hearing about McConkey, Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Legette. You've been hearing about you don't hear anything about Jalen Polk, right? So I think you can, under the radar, late second, you can potentially draft this guy in dynasty rookie drafts in the late second, even though he's going to be a 2nd round pick potentially. So has a good 40-yard time, is good hand size, arm length. Just again, overall, really, really good player. So he's just always kind of open. Yeah. He's always open, kind of knows where to win. Just trying to give him a little bit of love again, because not a lot of people talk about him. So next up, we're moving into the next tier here. And the next tier are guys, again, that I can see sneaking into the 2nd round. Probably for sure 3rd round picks. So we're going to start off with Devontae Walker. I know a lot of people are higher on him than I am. They might have him in this tier, in tier 4. I watch him play. There's a couple red flags on his profile, in my opinion. When I watch him play, a lot of contested catches. Not a lot of making a contested catches. Only 28, less than 30% contested catch rate, which isn't great. We want to see a little bit better at contesting catches. He was obviously super dominant at North Carolina. He had 50% of the team's offense, I think, at Kent State, and then North Carolina with Drake May. Did break out kind of young, has really good speed. One of the red flags that I saw was he only lined up on the right side of the formation, which was a thing with Quentin Johnston. And that was a negative, literally only on the right side of the formation out wide. So he's kind of raw, in my opinion. He's a bit raw. Now, he does have the tools and the ability to develop, right? It's just going to depend on his work ethic and the system he gets to. But there's a chance that he just doesn't develop. But he does have the tools, in my opinion, to develop. So I'll throw him in here. I'll be interested to see where he goes. Again, even though they're in tier 5, man, these guys are still potential second-round picks, guys. We're talking about a boatload of players that are potentially second-round picks. So it's like, I'm not trying to knock these guys necessarily. I got to rank them somewhere, but I'm still second-round draft capital, and they're going to have the chance to obviously succeed, and they're going to get their chance in the NFL. But Devontae Walker had an awesome combine, by the way, like through the roof numbers in the 40, the vertical, the broad jump, all that stuff. So a couple other guys here we have is Jalen McMillan, the other Washington receiver. I kind of want to put him in tier 4. I really like Jalen McMillan a lot. I think he's another kind of sleeper in this draft class. Like, he was hurt last year. He was good in a couple years out of college. You just watch him play, and you watch his film. And again, it's just one of these guys that just finds the holes in the zone all the time. One statistic that I'm starting to look at a little bit more is contested target percentage. How many of your targets were contested by the defender? And what I think that shows, if that's a low number, is really good route running. Really good route running, right? And what I think it shows, so if you have a low number, it means you're probably getting open. Now, there's different reasons why, but there's a good chance that you're getting open because of your route running. And he's at 10%, which is one of the lowest. I think it's second lowest in this draft class. So he's just, you watch his film and he's just always open in the holes of zone. So he's a pretty refined route runner, in my opinion. You know, he's not elite anywhere athletically necessarily, has good speed. You know, the vertical jump and broad jump are fine. He's not this crazy athlete. He's just a nice, solid receiver. So again, I want to see where he goes. Just like Jalen Polk, I think he can be a pretty nice wide receiver too for a team. Moving along here, I have a couple of other guys. Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, a team that throws the hell out of the ball. The Hilltoppers. Malachi Corley is a hard one to kind of evaluate, because I think it was 30% of his targets came behind the line of scrimmage. He has a running back background. I think he started off as a running back or was recruited as a running back. I think he played in college as a running back at Western Kentucky and then kind of found his home as a receiver. I'm kind of a sucker for these versatile guys. I think the NFL is heading into a direction of like versatility a little bit. And, being able to use guys as carries and handoffs and in the backfield and all this stuff. So I'm kind of a sucker for these players. The question with Malachi Corley, again, hard when you see 30% of your targets coming behind the line of scrimmage. It's really hard to kind of evaluate a player like that. So he doesn't have a super diverse route tree, but his yak ability is insane, which is super important in the NFL. Really good explosiveness. The weaknesses are, what is he going to turn into, right? What is he going to turn into? Is he going to be a Rondale Moore, Laviska Shenault type of player? Or is he going to take it to the next level, right? We've seen a lot of players like Malachi Corley, who teams take a chance on, by the way. Both those guys, I believe, Shenault and Rondale Moore, second-round picks. They didn't pan out, but they were both high draft picks. I know Rondale Moore was. I'm double-checking on Laviska Shenault now. Teams like those players as well. Yeah, he was the 42nd overall pick because of their versatility. But we see that they don't pan out. There's a lot of guys that are this size, shiftiness, can take carries, things like that. And man, if they hit like a Curtis Samuel almost, boom, you're going to have a good player. But there's a chance, again, he's just a Rondale Moore or Shenault, who are like wide receiver 4s at best. So like Malachi Corley, like his film, but just don't know what his ceiling is going to be. And then the last guy on this list that I have for us is Malik Washington. Malik Washington, Virginia. He's another intriguing player to me. He has good good speed. The size is lacking. He's, I believe, 5'9", 194. Was pretty productive, especially his last year in college. He accounted for 47% of Virginia's passing offense. He has some things that intrigue you. Really good PFF receiving grade, which I like. Just a super, super low ADOT. 8.1. So he's kind of in the boat with Malachi Corley of like, just what exactly are you? Are you Rondale Moore, or are you more than that? So really good yards per route run for Malik Washington, 3.15. That's like up there with like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. Again, both those guys, you kind of fit into the same boat a little bit. And then we'll kind of quickly go through this last one. These are kind of just players to watch, see what draft capital they get. They have some intriguing things around them. Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, just think he can develop into a nice, solid wide receiver 2/3 for a team. He has kind of all the attributes. He's not amazing in one area, I would say, except for maybe his route running is probably the best thing that he's amazing at, which is what you want to be amazing at. But like he is, he's not explosive, super fast. He's just like a really solid route runner, which is what Jerry Rice was, by the way. Interested to see where he goes. Jacob Cowing is another player. I think he fits in easily as like a slot receiver. And there's a couple players like that on this list where, they, or not on this list, but in this draft class, where I think they have their role. They can go in as the slot player, and it's just like, all right, can you be a little bit more? Can you turn into like Amon-Ra St. Brown, or are you just a slot player? We'll see. I think Cowing, what I like about him and the intrigue about him is he's going to get on the field. He's going to have a chance because he's going to have a role as a slot player. And is he just better than that? We'll see. The next guy here, Javon Baker. Javon Baker out of UCF here. The reason I have him on this list is because I see him on so many mock drafts as like a second or third round pick. And when I first watched him, I was just kind of like, I don't really see much here. I don't really see much here. Nothing excites me too much here. It's just kind of like, okay, if he gets drafted, like wide receivers 3/4 for a team. But then I've been seeing him being drafted in like mocked in the second or third round. So I still don't really see it. He has a really good yards per route run, bad drop rate. His ADOT was really high. He was kind of a field stretcher a little bit, but really good contested catch percentage. Just keep an eye on him because if he does get that draft capital, kind of like a Jonathan Mingo where he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, you got to pay attention to it a little bit. So Jermaine Burton is another one out of Alabama. The question for him is he strictly a deep threat? The guy had a 20.1, I think, ADOT. 20.2 average depth of target, which is absolutely insane. Not yards per catch, average depth of target. So his average target was over 20 yards down the field. The next closest was Javon Baker, I believe, at 15.2. Nope, there's Troy Franklin at 15.5. So we're talking about almost 5 yards difference there, which is huge. The question, he has, again, really intriguing things in his profile. His speed, his 10-yard split, his athleticism in the broad and the vertical, all these things are good. The question is he just a deep threat or can he develop into something a little bit more? Johnny Wilson, I'm not a Johnny Wilson guy. I think he should move to tight end, to be honest. We've just never seen a 6'7" receiver succeed before. I don't see it. He's just, if this was 2005, Johnny Wilson would be a first-round pick. He just doesn't seem to fit today's NFL, in my opinion. Just kind of a little bit of a lumbering player. Not excited about him, but I still see him. There's still teams that are going to be intrigued by that size, right? A little bit more of an old school mind. And again, if he can just dominate contested catches, like he could succeed. I generally don't like to, that's not the type of players I go for, is these contested catch type of players. So 30% of Johnny Wilson's targets were contested catches, which means he had a hard time getting open. 30% is crazy high. So he did have a 52.2% of contested catch rate, but again, you want to see like 20 to me, getting above 25 is starting to get high. He was at 30. And then I put Luke McCaffrey on here. Again, I'm a sucker for versatile players. Luke McCaffrey obviously has the name behind him, the name of McCaffrey behind him. He played at Nebraska and Rice, and I just love the versatility. He actually was a quarterback for Nebraska. He didn't really like play a lot, but he, 2020 for Nebraska, he had 76 attempts. He can catch, he can run, and he can pass. Yeah, and I like the versatility. So his time at Rice, where he kind of dominated for Rice, he had, he was getting, he was kind of a rushing quarterback. So, he had 40, 65 rushes at Nebraska, 41 at Rice, 12, 15 the last 2 years. He's just versatile. Again, I think the NFL is heading into this kind of versatile type of play, with like the Deebo Samuels and Jaden Reeds and, coveting these players that can be a little bit more than just an outside receiver or something. So Luke McCaffrey have some things there that's a little intriguing. His contested catch rate is really nice. His drop rate at only 4.1 is really nice. Jermaine Burton, by the way, didn't drop a pass last year in college. I think he only had like 40, 50 targets, but didn't drop a pass. So there you have it, guys. That's my rankings. 23 receivers for you that, honestly, I could potentially see all these guys being like 4th round picks or higher, which is pretty insane. I can see a lot. I can see about 17 of these guys being 2nd round picks. So, we could get a crazy amount. We could get 12, 15 players, receivers drafted between the 1st and 2nd round. But if you need a receiver, this is your draft class to do it. As always, give us a like and subscribe, guys. Putting out more content here. We have a Dynasty rookie running back rankings out there. So, as always, appreciate it. Catch you guys next time.